Yeah, they came to Ben Affleck and they said, your wife's on these tapes. So that's something I can confirm to be fact. He said, I asked my partner for an Advil. He handed me the Advil. I woke up 22 days later. Combs is the person who poisoned them and put them in a coma. They like to keep memorabilia from these escapades. And, this is something that's a lot more common than people think amongst elite parts of society.
I walk in redemption.
Hey everyone, welcome to another Sit Down with Michael Franzese. Hope everybody is doing well. All is very good, very blessed on this end, especially through this holiday season. And as always, I give all the praise, honor, glory, and thanksgiving to our God for that. Diddy, in the news, every single day we seem to hear something about it. Somebody is making complaints, somebody is talking about it. Just a day or two ago, the assistant U.S. attorney read the indictment. Not pretty at all. A lot of pretty rough allegations in there. My position, as always, you're innocent until proven guilty, but you start to see some things that pile up and give you cause to say, what the heck went on there, It's not good. We know that. It's not good. And I think Diddy's got a handful of issues that he's got to deal with. I don't know if he'll ever be free again. We'll see. Who knows what's going to happen with him? If these powerful people are involved in this and they don't want this to get out, could it be another Epstein deal? My feeling, I don't believe Epstein committed suicide. I'll take that to my grave unless you show me hard evidence to the contrary. I was in that tier. I was in that cell. I know the deal. There's no way, in my view, that he could have committed suicide. Trump says he's going to release the Epstein files. We'll see. We'll see who's on there. Same with Diddy. I think it's going to be surprising to a lot of people. So guests get in touch with me. They want to be on. They talk to me. So many people have contacted me about Diddy. I try to weed through them. Who's telling the truth? Who's not? We talked to Suge Knight. Some controversy there, but come on. Suge is a street guy. He knew Diddy. He knows the rap industry is good or better than anybody. So I have to, I have to say that he's credible in a lot of things that he said. Then I brought Greg on, Greg Kading. He disagreed with some of the things that Suge said. He gave his own perspective on some things. Hey, I put it out there. You let these people talk, and then you agree or disagree, and you take from it what you believe you should. And today I have a guest that I got to tell you, I thought he was the most credible. Not the most credible out of everybody, but one of the most credible guests that I've sat down with or talked to about this whole Diddy matter. His name is Big Homie CC. He's a Chicago boy, born and raised, came from the street, and really has made a good way for himself. He's a big guy, Big Homie CC. He's got his own security company. He's a bit of an entrepreneur, and he's a bodyguard, mostly for females. He likes to be a bodyguard for females because he said they're easier to protect, and he takes his job very, very seriously. So he was at 3 events, 3 of Diddy's freak-offs. And so he has personal knowledge as to how these things were run, and he's going to tell you about it. And like I said, I believe he's very credible. I really do. I really analyze people. I listen to them. I watch the way they carry themselves and the way they talk. I was very impressed with this young man. He's not that young. He's younger than me. So anybody younger than me is a young man. But I was very impressed with the interview I had with him. As a matter of fact, so impressed that I talked to him, and you'll hear it in the interview, about possibly he and I getting together to try to do some good in the city of Chicago, where people are killing themselves every weekend. These young gangbangers, these young street kids are killing themselves every weekend. And it's gone on since the Obama administration. And I have personally contacted people in Chicago and said, listen, I'll come in and help. These gangbangers, they relate to me and they talk to me. Let's put something together and stop the violence in the streets. Nobody responds. They don't care. Obama, that's your home city, your hometown. You did nothing to your administration. And, and nobody has ever since. Trump, too, I got to say it, but, he was thinking about other things. I'm not saying it's okay, but maybe it's time that we get into that city and try to stop the violence. Innocent people getting killed every single weekend. So maybe Big Homie and I will get together and do something about that. I have a heart for these young kids. You'll hear about it. We talked about it. But again, I think his insight into Diddy and some of the things he says are going to be eye-opening, and I believe he's very credible. That's my personal opinion and perspective after speaking to him. So you take what you take out of it, but it's a very, very good interview. Listen closely to what he has to say. Listen how he analyzes some things. He talks about things, stuff that was put into drinks. He just talks about a lot. I don't want to give it away. I want you to hear it from him. So without any further delay, here's my guest. A pleasure to have a sit down with him. Big homie CC. I don't know if you know, recently I had Suge on the phone. And and he talked a lot about Diddy, what he knew. And some of it was controversial, some of it, but hey, you know what? When I sit down with somebody, they say what they say, and I respect that, and we take it from there. But you were involved somewhat with Diddy because you were a bodyguard to somebody that went to some of his parties, correct?
Yes, sir. That's exactly how it happened.
And were you at a lot of these freak-offs, I guess we got to call them?
So here's the thing. I only been to 3 of his events. Now, when the first part of the event is a normal socializing mixer, upscale, the who's who is there, it's normal. But when you see the guy come out with the black suit and he's collecting everyone's cell phone and then inviting them to another party, which I say it's layers to it. They're inviting you to another part of the party where everybody cannot go. You see, so then that's when discrepancies start to take place because, my business is predicated on protecting women mostly because, you know how dudes are with a lot of money, they can straddle the fence. So once ladies in the industry know, he's got integrity, he can't be bought, stuff like that, you get booked a lot. So in one instance, I was with a lady, she on the cover of the Gucci magazine, beautiful lady, a real runway model. And oftentimes, when you're doing close protection work for a model, but they barely get to eat at all. And when they do eat, they'll get the nutrients out of it. They'll chew a grape, but they won't swallow the grape.
They're trying to maintain their figure. Yeah.
So, one glass of wine to that person, she's going to get drunk fast.
Right.
So, my job, you got to monitor those things. And a situation took place where it was a couple of us, and it's 4 of us total, 3 ladies, the principal and her 2 buddies. They sipped something and they started getting sick.
And this was the woman you were protecting. You were her security.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, my antennas go up. It led to a confrontation because I noticed that certain people knew what was going on. And a guy told me to relax, it's normal. No, this is not normal. Y'all don't know who y'all got here today. And, it led to a confrontation. I ended up getting hit with a bottle, get stitches. A couple guys had to go to the hospital, stuff like that.
Was it one of Diddy's bodyguards or one of his security people? Yeah.
Yeah, some people from this team.
Mm-hmm.
But he's got a team. He's got a team of people. And
so now when you say that this next group of people, this layer of group, did they go to a different location or was it at the same location?
Yes. So they ended up going upstairs. So because it's an open bar, first and foremost. Whatever drinks you want, usually the stuff he's contractually obligated to have normally. Any drug or narcotic you want is available. But you just start seeing groups of sex workers arrive, male, female, and you just start seeing people pairing off and start doing what they do. And if I'm in one of these events with a male and my principal is a man, I'll go wait in the car, because look, bro, I'm not here for the swinger party. You feel me? And then, you don't want to be the straight guy in a party where everybody else is rainbow, because when they start hitting on you, now you're the jerk. You never want to be that guy. You got to be a gentleman at all times until it's time to get vicious if necessary. So I never directly was paid by him or worked for him. I ended up at some of his events due to my employment. And yeah, man, a lot of strange things take place for sure.
Let me ask you a question. If you can recall, what was the worst thing or the most off-color thing that you saw happen at any one of these events?
Okay. So now, when it comes to his events, the most off-color thing I saw was 1 second he's in a suit, next second he's in a towel, and he's holding hands with two Eastern European gentlemen. And
When you say he, that's Diddy. You mean Diddy? Okay. Okay.
yeah, and he's holding hands with these little vampire-looking guys, like they off the movie Twilight. And I knew. I said, all right, now I know what this is. I see what's going on here. It's time for us to exit. You see what I'm saying? So, by the grace of the good Lord, I was able to remove myself and my principal from there. But there's been times where I've been with guys and they're staying. I had a famous singer tell me one day that he prefers trans ladies because they have stronger hands and stronger jaw muscles.
Now, who told you that?
He's a singer. His name's Bobby Valentino.
Bobby Valentino. Unbelievable.
Yeah, so but we grew up, we never looked up to these type of people. We always looked up to the gangsters, bro. So like the gangster guys, my uncles and all of them, they would always say, man, be careful, man. That entertainment stuff is for sissies, stuff like that.
Exactly.
And so it's all about perspective.
Well, let me ask you this. There's been some talk that he had some drinks that were laced with something.
Laced in drinks in the hip hop, entertainment, fashion industry is a big thing.
And what do they lace it with?
Well, previously it was Rutherland. And then the onset of...
You got to forgive me, homie, but what is that? What is Rutherland?
Rutherland, you ever heard the term someone got roof?
Oh, yeah, Rutherland. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
Rutherland was like the majority, but, whenever you see guys doing a lot of cocaine, scopolamine is going to be around.
Mm-hmm.
And scopolamine, once you're dosed with scopolamine, a person can take you to the ATM machine. They can say, empty your ATM machine, empty your account. You're going to empty the account out, give away all your furniture. You have no control of yourself until it wears off. And it's usually permanent neurological problems that come from being dosed with scopolamine. So Rutherland and scopolamine is something I was always leery of, for sure.
Do you know if that ever happened at a Diddy party?
So I will say this. There are a lot of people in my inbox who are on active indictments toward him who are alleging that this took place. So, recently he came under scrutiny because of liquid GHB. Now, liquid GHB in a very small amount can incapacitate you. Lowers your heart rate to the point where someone may think you're asleep or dead, but you're really not. So there are people in the indictment saying that, he squirted them with baby oil and they passed out.
And and in my thinking, the only reason you would want to do that is to take advantage of somebody, whether it be sexually or any other way.
Right. And what I've grown to understand is any man who does ecstasy for longer than 2 or 3 years, they start to become a sexual deviant. This guy Combs been doing ecstasy for 20 years. And now when he was arrested with a substance called Tusi, which is ketamine, ecstasy, cocaine mixed, and is dyed to be pink.
Yes.
So
that's the pink cocaine that now everybody's talking about.
Right. He was arrested with this while being under federal indictment and being monitored. So that goes to show that there's definitely addiction involved, and there's definitely a drug aspect involved as well.
Let me ask you this: did you ever hear of cyanide being mixed in any of these drinks?
Now, see, whenever people mention cyanide, I get uncomfortable because over a period of 6 years, I had pneumonia 3 times, right? So on the final time, my mom takes me to the hospital. They get a toxicology report done. I test positive for cyanide. The way cyanide metabolizes in the human body is after a certain amount of dosages, it turns into pneumonia. Kim Porter, his ex-wife, died from pneumonia.
I heard that.
His ex-bodyguard recently, a few months ago, just died from pneumonia. And when I first started speaking out about this, there were no podcasts. It's like 2013. There are no podcasts. Social media is really just starting to get ingrained in society. So people told me I was crazy, said I was a hater, but I work hand in hand with law enforcement in my career path. And, you know, they tested my car. My car handles tested positive for cyanide. So, you know, I don't think a person will use cyanide directly at a party, but cyanide is around. I tested positive for it. I got my toxicology report to this day. So.
And let me ask you, why would you put cyanide in somebody's drink? What kind of behavior would that cause you to, to be?
Yeah, so you feel like you got the flu. You feel sick. You want to isolate yourself from everyone. And your lungs, you're coughing up mucus. Like, throughout history, cyanide poison was a way people got away with murder before the onset of better technology for testing for certain toxins and stuff like that. Because, cyanide used to be in rat poison. So, it's all type of cold case files. This person, she poisoned her husband over a series of weeks with rat poison. He died from pneumonia. Where there's smoke, there's fire. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I don't invent or embellish. I'm only gonna speak on things I can verify to be facts. And I definitely tested positive for the cyanide, and I had pneumonia 3 times. I basically got 1 lung now because of it.
Really? So, but this didn't occur at a party for you. I mean, you didn't take a drink at one of Diddy's parties, and maybe the cyanide was in one of those drinks.
No, see, because, I have already been privy to certain things. So, it's footage of me with a bottle of champagne in my hand that I brought with me while I'm with models and stuff like that. Because, it's a scary feeling, bro. Like when you can look at somebody and tell they've been compromised and you can't really explain why. So once me and my team had experienced roofing on our own, we said we can never let this happen again. So we invented some new protocols. If a bottle get brought to a section, if it's opened already, you gotta send it back. We would travel with a portable test kit with us. All type of, if people are paying you to protect their life, you got to use every tool that's available to you.
Well, again, without making any definite allegations or pointing fingers, it makes you think why, Kim Porter would have died of pneumonia when Diddy is putting everything else in drinks. I'm not saying he did it. We don't know that, but it raises eyebrows. You gotta kind of think about it, Why did that happen? And she was relatively young, Kim. I mean, she was a young girl. It's not normal that you die of pneumonia at that age.
Just not normal. Just not normal. And some of the other substances that we mentioned, people will still start partying off of that. Cyanide touch you, you don't want to party.
Yeah.
So, you almost get a feeling like, man, something's wrong here. But you're not going to think that somebody's poisoning. You're not gonna think that, you know.
Right.
But it definitely happened to me. So, and like in the work that I do to combat human trafficking, you know, I've had bounties on my life. You know, I've had the FBI showing up telling me, yeah, we got information. You know, by law they got to tell you.
Right.
You know, had those situations. You know, so you know, you just kind of get accustomed that you know what you signed up for. So you know, you just try to take as many steps possible to mitigate risk and man, and hope for the best. Be vigilant.
Let me ask you this. You know, Suge was quite outspoken. He gave me names. He said that he mentioned Obama. He said Obama and Diddy were close friends. He even indicated they had a relationship, sexual relationship together. You know, obviously he spoke about Justin Bieber and Usher and all that. Is there anybody that you know that you feel you can talk about that was at these parties or affected by anything?
Well, so I am aware that Leonardo Dicaprio has he's having a lawsuit come up against the Busby lawyer because so right now what's happening is so you know when they initially raided Combs' home, they did not inform the raiding officers whose home they were going to raid.
Hmm. I didn't
So
know that.
right, so that right there goes to show like all right now this guy have a lot of reach. He could be somebody that's been cooperating previously. So once they got their hands on that footage, you know, there have been laws passed for revenge porn and stuff like that. You can't sell someone's tape without them approving it. So, you know, from my sources, some other close protection operatives, you know, there are a lot of A-list stars right now who are doing what they can to prevent certain footage from coming out. You know, one thing Suge Knight said that I can confirm to actually be facts because I know this gentleman's part of his security team. Yeah, that they came to Ben Affleck and they said the wife's on these tapes. So that's something I can confirm to be facts.
Jennifer Lopez.
For sure, I can
Yeah.
confirm that.
On the tapes, meaning that you mean maybe videotapes, footage, whatever it is they confiscated there?
Yeah, because whenever I meet people like Combs, like they like to keep trophies. They like to keep memorabilia from these escapades. And, you know, this is something that's a lot more common than people think amongst elite parts of society. Because, like, you know, once a rich guy realizes that, wait a second, no one's going to tell me no, you know, depending on how you're raised and your moral compass and what you believe in, you know, I've seen a lot of guys get off the handle. And I've seen Combs scream, say, I'm a savage. If I want it, I'm going to have it. I don't accept no for an answer. That let me know what I need to know because, you know, I've done security for certain guys and, you know, you show up to their house unannounced and he's in a mascot outfit in the floor with somebody else in a big teddy bear outfit and they dry hump in the floor. They call themselves furries.
Mm.
You know, you'll see a millionaire guy, he gets off by having in a furry costume. So you just never know what people are into.
Yeah.
This guy revealed what he's into.
When you say Leonardo DiCaprio, he's got a lawsuit against BuzzFeed because of something that they said with him regarding Diddy?
Yeah, so the guy Busby referenced that he has stills of a sexual encounter between Combs and an A-list celebrity with a much higher status than Combs.
Hmm.
So it's... Yeah.
I got you. Let me ask you this. Heard something about Jamie Foxx possibly being involved with Diddy and on the wrong side of it. You know anything about that?
So, you know, bro, I seen Foxx with Combs on several occasions at different events. Now, Jamie Foxx's family are the ones who reported Diddy to the FBI when Jamie Foxx went into the coma initially.
Really?
So that's how that all came about. His daughter Corinne and his mom were the ones who did that. And when people come and they ask Jamie on the street, he doesn't deny it.
Mm.
So, you know, at the end of his comedy special on Netflix, you know, at the live taping, he said out of his mouth that Combs is the person who poisoned them and put him in a coma. He said, I asked my partner for an Advil. He handed me the Advil. I woke up 22 days later.
Man.
Now, if you somebody knowing that, look, I got an indictment pending, I might need to start cleaning up my surroundings. You know how that go.
Yeah. And let me ask you this. What would be the purpose, and this I've heard many times, that Diddy had people sign NDAs when they came into the party, which if there was criminal activity going on, the NDA doesn't mean anything. And Diddy should have known that. But what do you think his purpose in that was? Just to try to get into people's head that you can't talk about this? Or?
Well, you know, Michael, I'll tell you, non-disclosure agreements at celebrity who's parties is something that's taking place on a daily basis. Been taking place like that for years. Simply because I know for a fact that in Combs's NDA, you can't say anything about what you've seen or partook in at the party until 20 years after he's dead. And so, you know, like, how do you get somebody to do a big favor for you?
Yeah.
Invite them over, show them a time of their life. You got them on camera doing something they're not supposed to do.
Right.
You put that call in for that favor. Hey, buddy, remember that day I really need to get this person right here signed to this person. Or I really need to get this person to stop speaking on that radio channel about me negatively. That's how it happened.
Hmm. Let me ask you, you know, one of the questions I had is, how does this go on for 20 some odd years? And the reason I say that, maybe there's a little, I don't want to say resentment, that's not the right word, but in my former life, the FBI was on us 24/7. We were like, I mean, I was indicted 7 times. I was arrested 18 times. I went to trial 5 times. I had 2 federal racketeering cases, 1 state. They were on me constantly. And look, I was a criminal. You know, I was doing what I was doing, but I wasn't doing these kind of parties or anything like that. What I'm saying is, how does this go unnoticed or unbothered, I would say, for 20 years? So my first reaction is, this guy must be an informant. He must be doing something with the government. This is my thought. I have nothing to back that up. Until Suge said to me that Diddy's been an informant for years.
Right.
What's your thought on that?
Okay, so my thoughts on this is this. In your situation, you were making millions. And they couldn't really prove that you was doing it illegally. Right. So they were out to prove that you were doing it illegally.
You're exactly right.
With Combs, they know how he's making his millions. So it's like, okay, we're not going to be able to go after him for taxes. We're not going to be able to go after him for operating a criminal syndicate that's doing racketeering as the source of income. And then you're operating in a network of people where, you know, he was the middleman. He's the party guy for the guys who really got the money. Because none of these problems started for him until he went after the liquor company that owned Ciroc. We all thought he was part owner of Ciroc.
Mm-hmm.
The moment he won that lawsuit, shortly after that, he sold Revolt TV. Revolt TV was his baby. It's his own network. He worked hard on that. So when I saw he sold that to his buddy, I'm like, all right now. Word just came down. They coming after him. Because got those big corporations. You know, you got 5 or 6. You probably got 2 billionaires, a couple hundred millionaires on the board of directors. On Combs' board of directors, it's just him. Nobody on his board of directors is going to be of real affluence to the point where, you know, they can really go and donate to a presidential campaign or something like that. So, you know, Combs felt like he was bigger than the program. And once he demonstrated certain activities, you know, it led to his demise because, you know, the human trafficking division in the United States is a small group.
Yeah.
So that's why after Combs went down, you seen the guy Reeves from Abercrombie. You see what happens down in by Disneyland. They working hand in hand with other groups of law enforcement to combat this. You know, it's $11 billion a year industry.
Yeah.
You know, people want to blame the majority of it on the 5% of celebrity culture. That's not the majority that's making the purchases. You know, you can sell a kilo one time, you can sell a kid 100 times. So, you know, once they was able to see that he violated interstate commerce laws by flying underage people on planes for sex and stuff like that, that's what led to his demise. And then once he was off the street, people feel safe now. He's a dangerous person. He's not a pushover. His name's associated with murders, various assaults, explosives in someone's vehicle. Feds say they got him actively while under indictment, calling witnesses, trying to get them to change their story. They told him, you can stay on the street as long as you're not calling witnesses and your private jet is in 2 different states. This guy standing on the street with a sucker.
Yeah.
And a group of young girls, they're excited to see him. Then that plane came to New York. They picked him up immediately.
I mean, you think he's going to stand up in all of this? Or you think he's going to cooperate? You think he's going to give up some of these big names? Yeah. Hey, listen, I'll tell you this, homie. I was in the exact same prison on the same, it should be a jail rather. I was in the jail where Epstein was. I was on that tier. I was in those cells. There's no way in my mind that you're going to commit suicide. No way. You can't do it. They're watching that tier all the time. The cameras are on. For everything to go off at one time, it would still be hard for him to commit suicide because there's nothing there. There's nothing on the ceiling. The bed is this high. You couldn't do it. So my point is, you know, I think they got rid of Epstein. I'll swear to that. I don't know what's going to happen with Diddy.
It's listed in the Epstein investigation that on the day that he died, the cameras were not working on that tier.
Right.
You know what that means.
Absolutely.
And I don't feel like the average American understands how cheap the price of life is now. Combs, they said that 1,000 bottles of baby oil, allegedly some of the bottles tested positive for liquid GHB. So if we do the math on that, 1,000 bottles, 8 ounces, what's that, 54 pounds of GHB?
Mm-hmm.
Mandatory life sentence.
Right.
$58 million bail package denied.
Mm-hmm.
All of the prosecutors on that case are women. We also seen the mayor, Eric, get indicted.
Right.
FBI was trying to save face before the election to not get disbanded. So they did what they did, racked up some big cases, locked some people up. Combs is going to have to give up people if he ever wants to see the light of day again. He's facing several life sentences. And he don't have murders he can give up. But if he does, he will. So January 20 was a trial start May 25th.
Yeah.
We gonna see some interesting things start to take place before then. Did you see they come in, season his notes? He get a little win in court. They gotta destroy the notes they took.
Yeah.
He wants to change his jail because he knows he can get Epstein in there.
Yeah, you know, my thinking is he either disappears, meaning some kind of accidental death, number one. Number two, he cooperates and gives up somebody that law enforcement might think is more important than him, or he goes to jail forever. I mean, it's going to be, I don't see him standing up, let's put it this way.
I don't see that either, because why would you as a billionaire need automatic rifles with defaced serial numbers?
Mm-hmm.
Why would you need that? You're doing things you're not supposed to be doing. And I feel like there is another criminal drug dealing element that they're working on, because when they first stopped his plane, they arrested his mule. And then when they arrest you again, you still got drugs on you.
Yeah.
That's operating like somebody who's been cooperating.
Yeah. So Suge saying that he's been cooperating is not too far off in your opinion.
Not too far off at all. Not too far off at all, because Keefe D is in Clark County right now, and he's saying Diddy the one paid us to kill Tupac.
Really? Yeah, he did say that, yeah.
Saying that, you know, allegedly the feds have a list of people that he's responsible for their demise.
Mm-hmm.
They also said they have him on camera at his residence assaulting a male sex worker. How out of control are you? You paid this person to come here to have sex. You got a rifle?
Yeah.
I know a dude, bro, personally, who he said he's out to eat with Combs, his sons, and some other people. And the topic came up, how much money would it cost for you to suck a penis? He said, man, I need at least 100,000. He said to me, Combs said 100,000? Right now, you would do it. And he said, man, I was just playing. But he said Combs wasn't playing.
Guy's a deviant without a doubt.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You know, it's amazing. As much as I've seen and been through in my life and witnessed, I don't understand how somebody gets this crazy and out of control.
I'm telling you, it's the ecstasy.
Gotta be.
Brother, I promise you. I distinctly remember what the streets of Chicago were like before everyone was taking ecstasy on the weekend. Then it went to now people using this as a daily habit. Guys I thought were upstanding was getting caught with trans people.
Mm.
I seen this firsthand. I remember what the streets was like before the internet. I remember before the pills became a thing. It definitely played a role for sure. And like, you know, and I always say this, like a man who's not raised with like some sort of gangster principles, only thing he really has to believe in is his wants and needs. You know, being in your position, being in my position, when you want to form a leadership, you know, there's certain things you know you can't do. Because, you know, they call me big homie. You gotta earn that. So, you know, I can't be doing the same thing the little homies is doing.
Right.
When they in the living room talking to the females, I'm in the room with the door closed, because then now the lines get blurred now.
Mm-hmm.
Are you one of us or are you our leader? That's why when you see Combs, the people that's coming after him was always, everyone's younger than him. There's nobody older than him. The people who could have really combated him have died under strange circumstances. You know, this is the only industry we see where people have interns. They'll come work for years for free for the thought of having a big career. You can't. You're not gonna be an intern at Walmart.
Yeah.
It's all about taking advantage of people. That's why I've been going back and forth with these people for years. Man.
Let me ask you, change your gears a little bit. R. Kelly, you grew up with him, right?
Grew up around him for sure.
Yeah. What kind of guy? He's got his hands full now, for sure.
Now listen. I swear on my mother, I never liked this dude. The people in my family at my church, they would say, "Why are they bringing this pedophile in here?" They were saying this years ago. You know, I know dudes who took their daughter to him for voice lessons. He go pick his daughter up. He got $50,000 cash with him now. That's the thing, bro. Like these people all were getting enabled in different areas. You know, like in my family, people knew. When it comes to my little cousins, my aunties, and them, like, man, like, it's gonna be heinous consequences for you if you decide that you want to try to oppress any of these people right here. These guys, they hiring security, they feel invincible. You know, just like I know, that in certain organizations, there are rules. And I heard you say something before that you say, they'll never get me in a room again. These guys don't have that. Nobody can call them into a room.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be graveyard consequences. They don't have that.
Yeah.
Now operate underneath that, and they got unlimited money, and everybody want to be a celebrity.
Yeah, the problem, homie, they're not accountable to anybody but themselves. And
that's a big problem.
And accountability, as you know, is very important in life. You have to have accountability, whether it be to your faith, your boss, yourself. Right. Without it, there's no rules, and eventually you're going to go down. You're going to get in trouble for it, and that's what happens. I think Diddy the same thing. He was accountable to nobody. At least he thought he wasn't, until it catches up with you.
Until it's just too late.
Yeah.
And you know, Dapper Dan said that he grew up with Combs' parents. And he said what's going on with Combs didn't start with Combs, it started with his parents.
Really?
So that's what Dapper Dan said. So got to keep all these things in mind, man. Like I never harmed nobody who didn't deserve it. You know, I stand by that. You know, people coming out saying that he ruined their life. As men, we can choose our actions, but we cannot choose our consequences.
So right. But you got very interesting background. I think we both do, different ways, but very, very interesting. I understand you knew about me before this call.
Yes, for sure. So, you know, growing up in the inner city of Chicago, you know, Italian culture, Sicilian culture, you know, those type of things are very prevalent in the city.
Yes.
And especially from the omerta aspect of, you know, operating in the underworld of sorts. You know, a lot of Chicago Black street organizations mimicked and modeled themselves based off what they seen you guys doing, mostly on a theatrical standpoint, though.
In other words, you were influenced by some of the movies about our life and some of the characters that you might have bumped into or seen on the street in Chicago. Because Chicago is one of my favorite cities. Have a lot of friends there, and obviously we had a big presence in Chicago, as you well know.
For sure, and you know, I've had some interactions with some actual figures from that lifestyle. So you know, in my community, bro, like a lot of things we did, you know, we considered it mob style, mafioso type of activity. So, you know, definitely honored to be here. Thank you to my boy Reese for locking this in. And I did my 10,000 hours of research for sure.
Well, homie, let me ask you this, because this is something that's been bugging me for a while with Chicago. All of this stuff that's going on there, all of this gang warfare, it's disappointing and frustrating to me that nobody has gone in there and tried to clean it up. When I say clean it up, a lot of stuff, with these young guys in the street, they're just uninformed, uneducated, and nobody's paying attention to it, and people are dying, on a weekly basis there. What do you think? And, having come from there and some experience there, how do you think we help those young men? We help clean that up, so to speak, so people are not dying every weekend?
Very, very profound question. So here's the thing. There used to be leadership and infrastructure with all street gangs in Chicago. There was a time, and I remember, when you needed permission if you were going to go shoot somebody. You needed permission. Like, if you wanted to commit a murder, it had to be sanctioned. People had to approve of such. So throughout the process where law enforcement had this war on drugs, a lot of the infrastructure and leadership was removed. So it just left madness. So then when certain gentrification took place, project housing was torn down, then they moved those families into the south suburbs. So now you got people operating on a certain mentality getting moved throughout the city, which just led to nonsense and madness because it's blood feuds, and in Chicago, people believe in an eye for eye, and a lot of other cities, like, I don't care what your race or nationality is. If you are born and raised in Chicago, you're going to have a little bit more proficiency to get violent with somebody if disrespect does occur and stuff like that. So the lack of leadership, you definitely should be able to send people in to try to mediate these blood feuds. They do it in Europe all the time.
And why do you think that nobody's tried to do that? A while ago, I think about a year and a half ago, I sent a message to some people at Black Lives Matter. And I said, listen, young people are getting killed there every weekend, innocent people too, in these drive-bys or whatever. I said, I'm willing to go in. I have some influence. I've spoken to a lot of these gangbangers. They happen to listen, they pay attention, at least when I'm talking to them. But obviously then you have to follow up and help these guys. You can't just talk to them once and run out of there. What would you say would be a way to try to get to these kids and get this stuff? And I call them kids. I know young men is maybe what I should say, and get to them and make them stop. How would you attack or approach that?
So, it's gonna take the faces of the culture in order to even make an attempt or make a dent in what's going on. So, you're right. Most of them are kids. You got guys committing murder before they have sex. You got guys getting life sentences as virgins. So, in Chicago, the reverence that comes with your reputation, if you're known to be a killer, people are choosing that over being someone who gets a lot of money, because it's a lot harder these days to make money out the street. Mm-hmm. So, I was born into certain affiliations, and, I've got a certain reach. So, I got programs that I sponsor to try to help at-risk youth and stuff like that. So we definitely can set it up where people from your crowd, my crowd, we can get together and we can go into neighborhoods and directly negotiate for peace. It can be done. I've partaken in it, but it's gonna take people like yourself. It's gonna take people like myself. But like you just said, they'll listen, but they're gonna listen to people who they feel like is of cloth like they are. Because 90% of what's going on, bro, is based off mafia movies and books. Guarantee that. So the fact I'm able to speak to you in this dialogue, this gonna be interesting today, for sure.
Well, let me tell you, I'll just put this out there, and I mean it, because I've been speaking to these youngsters now for, God, ever since I was in prison, back in the 80s and 90s. and I really have a heart for them. If there's any way that you feel that we can put something together that I can be and contribute in some way, I'd be willing to do that, because this is going on for years. I mean, every weekend, and it's like it's being ignored. And nobody wants to get to the root issues and say, well, how do we get these kids out of this mess that they're in?
Yeah. There have to be options provided for the youth.
Exactly.
So, there are some things we can do on that aspect of things. And then at the same time, hip hop music definitely was an influencer for it, to incite violence, because, a guy will go make a diss song, dissing his enemies. A record label will see he's doing numbers, come give this kid $1 million, and what is he gonna do? He's gonna continue. They're not gonna install mentorship, because I played pro football first before I started my security business, and they put people along your path to help guide you a proper way.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're also, this is the era of the babies' children that are running amok. Because I remember growing up in the 90s in Chicago, and it was the same thing, in my opinion. But the internet and availability for instant media is definitely putting the spotlight on it. And, in Chicago, bro, like, they believe let the animals kill themselves, kill each other. That's why you'll see so many unclosed cases.
That's so interesting what you just said. It just even hit me that this is the era or the time of crack babies that have grown up now. It's terrible to think of that, but what chance do these young men have? They grew up like that and they don't know anything better. But you see, you're so right in one thing. Many years ago, I think it was in 1998, I was working with Major League Baseball. And I was speaking to athletes about gambling and about associations that they have, keeping them away, trying to keep them out of trouble. I've been doing that for almost 30 years now. But I was with Major League Baseball, and they asked me to come to a juvenile hall in Florida and speak to some of the young kids in there. So I said, okay. They said, we'll give you a half an hour.
All right.
And I said, a half an hour? What am I going to do in a half hour? I said, give me some time, So I went in there. P.S. I was there for 3 hours. They let me go, right? And it was about maybe 15 kids, and I seen that I really got to them. They were around me, and we were talking, asking questions. It was one of the greatest experiences I had. It was one of my first. I spoke to a lot of young ones in prison, but this was a whole group. But when I got out of there, I said, you know what? I just did these young men a disservice. And they said, what do you mean? I said, there's nothing else I can do for them. I just talk to them, I get them on a high, and then I leave and they go back to the grind. I said, that's not right. I said, we have to have a follow-up program so that if I'm giving them this information, we can now send them someplace so we can participate with something that can give them help and get them out of the situation that they're in. And I swore from that point, I wouldn't talk to anybody unless I knew I can send them to a program or there's people behind me that can help them. And that's what I've done for the past several years. There's different places, around the country, especially when I go in with a church. They have programs in place where they can help these young men. But anyway, listen, keep that in the back of your head. Homie, I mean that. If there's anything that we can do.
Hats off to you, first and foremost, for even, you don't have to do those things. So definitely hats off to you for that. And I got the full infrastructure set up. I got a grant writer, I got investors. I got Look Who TV. They got a documentary going on. I could definitely tap you in with Brian Cooper, the executive producer for that. We're gonna work on this.
You count me in after we do this, and maybe December or January we get together. I'll come into Vegas. We'll sit down and we'll plan something out. I really love to get involved and help if I can.
Man, big salute to you, Michael. That means a lot because it's been an uphill battle, but you're able to see things from a different perspective than the average person because you've been behind the wall, you've been on the street. You've made money. You know what it's like not to have money, and So you're able to communicate on different levels than the average guy can. So, yeah, I'll put some stuff together. We're going to work on this for sure. You got my word.
All right, brother, you got it. All right, switching gears. First of all, you said you played for the NFL. What team?
Cleveland Browns, Chicago Bears.
Oh, man. Practice squad, huh? You enjoy it?
Say it again.
You enjoy it?
So, man, I'll be honest with you. I was over football by the time I got about sophomore year of college.
Yeah.
There is no NIL. Your body's getting banged up. And, I was never a slouch mentally, so I had little businesses running and stuff like that. So, I'll send you from when the Bears sued me for breach of contract, because once I was done, I was done. Then they called me, big fella, are you in shape? I'm like, sure, I'm in shape. So they wired the money. I show up to camp, overweight, blow the physical. Had to pay them back 3 payments of $33K. But whatever. I took the money, started my business, and they didn't sue me till 2018. So it worked out well for me.
Hey, sometimes you got to do what you got to do, right? They can afford it.
You got to,
They can afford it. It's okay.
All right, these guys got billions.
Yeah, hell yeah. Hell yeah. Well, listen, this was very interesting. I'm going to tell you this, homie. I've sat down with a lot of people, and I really mean that. Some people of substance over the years. I mean, on these sit downs that I have. I got to say, I believe you're one of the most honest and insightful guys that I've ever sat with.
That means a lot to me. Thank you, sir.
No, I really mean that, and very intelligent. Just the way you express yourself, and it's admirable. I really commend you for that, and for the way you.
Means a lot. Means the most, for sure.
And I see you're a man of principle. Some of the things that you said, I listen very carefully to people.
Definitely.
You got good principle about you, and I appreciate that. And I hope that we can do something together, to help some of these kids. I said this when I was in prison. A lot of young kids, 19, 20, 21 years old, coming into the system. Many of them were a little older than that, 21 and over. They had mandatory minimum drug sentences. In the feds, you get 20, you're doing 17 and a half. There's no parole. You got to do 85%. And I would sit down, and I had a heart for these young people, and they looked up to me. And, homie, you can write the same script for every single one of them. Broken home, no father figure in the house. They get to the street, you understand that. They got to make a living. Their mom's trying to do their best. She's always got her own issues. So they gravitate to the local gangbanger, drug dealer. Before you know it, they end up in prison or something worse. And I said, I have 7 kids. They were brought up in the best situation. Even when I was in prison, I had a great wife. My family surrounded them. They don't have excuses in that regard. And my son, who had everything, went off the deep end. I almost lost this kid. Got involved in drugs and everything else, and he had the best upbringing. So I'm saying, what do you expect from these young people that had no good influence around them? And people said, well, you know what? It's not our problem. I said, no, it is our problem, because we created the environment that they're living in today. We allowed this to happen. So you can't just abandon young people like this and say, too bad. They'll face consequences. There's got to be a way, and I just hope, our government and some of these organizations and maybe people like you and I can get together and help some of these kids, because every weekend, I read every single weekend, Chicago specifically, that these kids are killing one another, and it's just terrible that nobody's doing anything about it. I was upset with Obama because I said, he comes out of Chicago. This is your neighborhood. Listen, one thing on the street, homie, you don't commit crimes in our neighborhood. None of that happening. You know what I mean? Obama, this is your neighborhood. You see this stuff going on. You have a big influence. Go solve it.
No sense of pride. It's like he had no sense of pride at all when it comes to that.
None. And it was a shame, because he could have done something. He could have been a big influence on me. He didn't do it.
And how does that make you feel, that being in the world you're from, and then, a lot of people go to jail and not take time to try to mentor anyone? What happened that made you just have it in your brain? You know, something's got to be done here. What was that event?
Because again, you know, I mean, I had kids of my own, and I'm saying, you got to help these kids. You know, I'll give you an example. There was a young black kid who was always in trouble in there, always in trouble, right? We were in Terminal Island, and I used to try to talk to him, and he was hanging out with some wrong kids. But we would go into the visiting room, and his mom would come in there, wait 2 hours on a darn line. My wife got friendly with her. She'd come in with her 3 younger kids, go right to the vending machine, put the money in there, get the food out, sit down. The kid comes in, he has a great time with his mom, right? And I love seeing that. And I got friendly with her. So he gets in trouble. They put him in a hole. They don't tell the mom that, right? She's still waiting online 2 hours. She don't know that he's in the hole. She gets in there. They don't tell him. She comes over to me. I said, listen, you know, he got in some trouble. He's okay. He's okay, but they've got him in a hole. He'll probably be there a few days. Don't worry about it. So she's going, Michael, what am I going to do with this kid? Blah, 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 right?
Right.
So he gets out of the hole. I said, come here, I want to talk to you. So he comes over. I said, let me ask you a question. He said, what? I said, do you love your mother? He said, oh, I love my mom. My mom is everything to me. I said, you're an effing liar.
Yes, sir.
He looked at me, he said, what? I said, you're a liar. And he said, how do you say? I said, you're a liar, man. As your mother's working 2 jobs, waits online 2 hours, brings the 3 brothers and sisters you got coming in there, puts all her money in the vending machine so you could eat, and you don't even have the decency to watch yourself in here so that woman doesn't suffer out there. I left her in tears. Homie, kid broke down in tears.
You was able to reach his level.
Reached his level. So that showed me, I said, these kids have heart. They just don't have direction.
Direction is key. Like, you're 100% facts. Like, everything you saying is spot on. Like, that's why, like, man, I would go out my way. Like, you know, it's expensive. But, you know, like, I know that if I make sure that this little basketball team is able to have the jerseys they need and the little resources they need to be here at these particular days of the week, and then those kids can be at that game on Saturday at 5 p.m., I did my part.
Absolutely.
All it takes, like, you know, 30 seconds. 30 seconds, and now his mom's at work, he's out of school. If he's got a 2-parent household, he's blessed. If not, all it takes is 30 seconds. And now he's making choices that can lead him down a path that he's not even aware or prepared for.
Exactly.
You remind me of somebody, man.
Who's that?
So years ago, when I got done with football, you know, I had some money left over. I was already doing security work. And there was this older Italian gentleman, his name was Tony. Now, at first I thought, I'm like, man, you giving me Tony, man, what's your real name? You know, but once I seen his mom and them call him Tony and stuff like that, okay. Ended up building a rapport with him. We ended up he was much older than me. Head full of white hair, short guy, you know. He said, listen, I'm off your opportunity. Come get involved in this restaurant I got. You know, you're a big, strong guy. Get your ball player teammates to come down here and eat. We do some business. I ended up investing in the restaurant. And he had an 89 Lincoln Town car. He called it the Big Linguini. It was in mint condition. And like, listen, Keith, you're a good man. So some of the things you were just saying to me that you noticed about me just struck a chord, because he would say certain little things like that. So he would give me his car, I guess, as a sign of respect. Like, So, you know, I'll be driving the car, you know, and the fact when I brought it back to him, it was gas in it, it was clean. That went a long way with him.
Absolutely.
So he finds out, he said, yeah, I hear you being a bodyguard. How's that gig going for you? I said, it's going pretty smooth. He said, well, listen, I'm going to introduce you to some people. So probably as a few months go along, you know, I'm coming to his family's house. I'm eating with them. I'm meeting certain people. And we had hired a waiter. His name was Carmelo. Carmelo showed up one day, all this stuff in his car. You can tell he's been living in his car. He said he drove here from Jersey. This dude, Carmelo, bro, he was probably like 38, 39, real serious guy, but spoke eloquently. You know, he's teaching me, you know, how to really eat spaghetti and what's bullshit and what's not. You know, he's giving me the rundown on how he don't respect people who don't make their own pasta sauce from scratch. He's giving me the whole rundown. One day, I'm standing in the valet at the restaurant, and two guys pull up, get out of a E-Class Mercedes. They pull up, they get out, and they just attack a dude standing in the front. Attack him. His face. They worked him over. Worked him over fast. And I'm looking like, man, now mind you, no one's telling me anything.
Right.
No one's telling me anything. And Tony comes out. He said, Keith, what'd you see? I said, I didn't see nothing. He's like, that a boy. So I'm like, oh, okay. All right. Well, let me mind my business. You feel me? So a couple more days go on. I'm sitting at the front table. Carmelo's telling me the importance of drinking tea. You know, I like to have a beer. I like to have a Johnny Walker Black and Water. You know, I don't care if it's 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to have me a drink. You know, Carmelo, he wasn't feeling that. So, a few hours go past. I'm looking for Carmelo. I want some more tea. I like the tea. So he saw somebody came in for dinner service. He saw someone. He got up, and I never saw him again.
Really?
And Tony comes to me and he says, I think Carmelo recognized someone, or thus why he's been sleeping in his car. I'm like, And meeting these gentlemen allowed me to see a lot of other things about how the world really worked. Because the capacity for our restaurant was only 240.
Right.
But when the fire marshal would come, the fire marshal would say, you guys got about 400 people in here, right? I'm like, 400 people? I got the clicker. I'm like, man, we can't even fit 400 people in here. And the fire marshal says, so nice to see a young guy doesn't know what the hell is going on. And I'm like, man, what is going on? Nobody ever told me. You know, Tony told me to mind my business. And I always brought his car back in pristine condition. And, you know, to this day, when I go back to Chicago, you know, the family will let me know they having food over there. You know, I'll come over and he'll say, Keith, remember that day the guy got worked over? He's bleeding pretty bad. I say, no, not at all. He said, that's why I love you. That's why I love you. So I'm like, man, okay. So like, we always admired that though in our neighborhood because, you know, watching mob movies, we seen a guy say, you never embarrass your lady. Your girl, you never embarrass. We lived by those type of things. So like a lot of the principles that we and my personal crew stand on now, we got it from that. So it's kind of like, it's like a full circle moment for me to be sitting there talking to you right now. And we putting together plans to help people. So, you know, man, that's wanted to salute you. Thank you for having me on. Shout out my boy Reese. And man, this is a full circle moment for me right here, for sure.
Okay, so there you have it. I hope you were as impressed with Big Homie as I was. I believe, again, he was very credible. I love the way he comes across. He's very intelligent. He explains things so you can understand it. He was at 3 of these freak-offs. He didn't like what he saw. He represented, or I should say, he was the security for a couple of actresses. He didn't want to mention their name. That's okay. I don't push my guests. If they don't want to mention, they don't mention. But he was definitely there. There's no question. What he said about the drinks being spiked, what he said about, You know, Diddy. I mean, listen to what he said about Diddy. Not good. You know, and some of the other people. Listen to what he said about Ben Affleck being told in advance after the raid on Diddy's house that there was videotapes, I believe he said, with Jennifer Lopez on them. And I was told, I don't know if this is true or not, but I'm going to put it out there. I was told that that was one of the real reasons that Ben Affleck went through the divorce with Jennifer Lopez. He didn't like what he heard about what happened with her on those tapes. I don't know if it's true or not. That's what I heard, you know, and I think I heard it from a credible source. So, you know, we'll see what happens. But there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be held accountable, I believe. What's going to happen in the end? I asked him if he believed that Diddy would be an informant. And he said most likely. You know, maybe he has been. Suge said he's been an informant for a long time. You know why I tend to believe that? How do you get away with this for 20 years? How do you get away with it? 20 years. I mean, come on. We couldn't get away with that for 20 days before they'd be all over us with investigations. It wouldn't last. When I say we, I mean when I was on the street. So there's something here that's just not right. And you know what? I really hope it comes out. Because if there's human trafficking, if you know, Justin Bieber got abused and it was taken advantage of like he did, and so many others, if you had to sign an NDA to get in there, because he wanted to have something on you later on after he had the videotape on you and he can control you. If this stuff was going on, it needs to be put out in the open. People have to see, there's got to be a stop to this kind of stuff. Innocent people are getting hurt. You know, and I got to tell you this, you know, again, I go back to my mom days. Yeah, we did a lot of damage to each other's at times. We had wars, 3 wars in the Colombo family through my lifetime. But it was internal stuff that we agreed to do. It doesn't make it right. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not justifying it. But we didn't go after and target innocent people. Now, whether you believe that or not is up to you. We didn't do that. Did it happen on occasion? Yes. But this is not what we tried to do on a daily basis. This wasn't the basis of our existence. It wasn't. But when you get a guy, if these allegations about Diddy are true, I mean, come on. Come on, this is bad stuff. It's really bad stuff, and people need to be held accountable for this. And if we have some big names out there that were involved in this and that are now trying to cover it up, I hope it comes out in the open. I really does. And I hope it stops. Because some of these undercurrent things that are going on in Hollywood are just not good. So, take this for what you feel it's worth. I think, again, it was very credible. I think it was a great guest. We'll do something possibly again in the future, hopefully helping out the people in the city of Chicago. Maybe we can start a platform to do something there. We'll talk about it. We're going to meet. He lives in Vegas. I'm here in Southern California. I got business in Vegas, so we'll see what happens. That's it for today, my friends. How do I always leave you? Same way. Not going to change. Be safe. Be healthy. God bless you, your families, your loved one, your community, your neighborhood. God bless America. Yes. I'll see you next time. Take care.